According to the Bible, God created Adam and Eve, plopped them into the Garden of Eden, and instructed them not to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Their response to God's prime directive is supposed to be a lesson in morality and teach us that actions have consequence. What it really teaches is not about right and wrong. It's about doing what you're told. And that God is a mean son of a bitch. Prior to eating the forbidden fruit, Adam and Eve could not have known what good and evil were, and thus they could not have known that disobeying God was wrong. Therefore, when they ate the fruit, they were punished not for doing evil, but for not following an order, an act they could not have known was wrong in the first place. Additionally, God purposely created Adam and Eve with a natural curiosity and immediately subjected them to a test that, being omniscient, he knew full well they would fail. The end result, then, is that all of humanity was cursed with original sin because automatons simply followed their faulty program. The real lesson in Genesis 1 is not one of morality, since morality requires one to choose to do good over evil. No, the lesson is simply that one must obey authority. I was raised in a Christian family, and we attended church services regularly. My parents were teen youth group counselors, and my siblings and I participated in every youth group event. I even went to a Christian college to become a minister. Yet, despite the immersion in religious dogma, my day-to-day behavior was rarely dictated by scriptural edict. I did good because my parents taught me right from wrong. And I generally avoided doing bad, not because I feared displeasing God or eternal damnation, but again, because my parents taught me right from wrong. Like most good Christian parents, mine ignored the barbaric and hateful bits of the Bible, such as killing homosexuals and those who work on the Sabbath, and instructed me in the same principles of right and wrong that secular parents teach their children. Follow the golden rule, don't steal, kill, or lie, and so on. These were valuable lessons for which I thank my parents. However, the side effect of learning these basic precepts of right and wrong within the framework of the Christian dogma added unnecessary burdens to my developing psyche. As I got older, whenever I thought about anything I had been indoctrinated to believe would displease God, I was racked with guilt. Before I even had a chance to choose to do the right thing, I was overwhelmed with a sense of self-loathing for simply thinking about it. This was especially troublesome as I entered puberty. My biological impulses were a constant source of guilt, because I could not prevent myself from having sexual thoughts and feelings resulting from the natural hormonal pressures a boy experiences when looking at pretty girls. I spent countless hours in prayer, begging for forgiveness of my lustful thoughts. This led to repressing my natural urges, and later, in a rebellious phase, I believe it led me to make some poor choices in matters of sex that I might not have made if only I had been able to work through them in my earlier formative years. I was a pretty good kid, but the constant guilt was crushing. On the flip side, I believed God would forgive my sins if I was truly repentant. This was my get-out-of-sin-free card. The trouble was, as soon as I finished praying for the forgiveness of one lustful thought, another one would pop in there. In fact, the more I prayed to be forgiven for sexual thoughts, the more it kept sex on my mind. I could never get my soul clean. I was such a naughty, naughty boy. In hindsight, it all seems like self-imposed psychological abuse. I believed I was born sinful and could never be good enough to please God. I now realize that condemnation for thought crimes is cruel and evil. Each of us has thoughts we can't control. The measure of goodness is not based on what we think, but how we act. Following orders is also not a measure of one's goodness. Choosing to do the right thing, despite what you're told, is the true test of one's moral fiber. As an atheist, I no longer have repentance to assuage my conscience. Rather, I do good and avoid the guilt, self-loathing, and need for repentance or confession because my conscience guides me to make the right choices. No celestial authority judges me. My judge looks back at me from the mirror every day, and he is not so willing to forgive. But if you think an invisible Santa figure knows when you've been bad and keeps a scorecard of your naughty thoughts,
Error.